I once held the conviction that diligent effort was the pathway to achievement, that demonstrating my value would ensure career advancement. However, my assumptions proved incorrect, as my supervisor viewed female promotion through a singular lens. I am Sophia, a 27-year-old marketing professional employed at Nextech Solutions, among the industry's leading technology corporations. For 3 years, I had invested my complete dedication into this position, enduring lengthy evening hours, managing intense campaign pressures, and obtaining significant client agreements. My identity was linked to several of the organization's most notable achievements, giving me every justification to anticipate recognition. The corporation was preparing to announce its quarterly advancement roster, and I felt certain that my unwavering commitment would finally receive acknowledgement. Yet I began observing something disturbing. Despite my evident accomplishments, I witnessed less capable male peers receiving promotions before me. Several had committed substantial errors on previous initiatives, yet they were suddenly ascending the corporate hierarchy. Initially, I convinced myself not to overanalyze the situation. Perhaps it was merely workplace maneuvering. Then my supervisor Richard's behavior toward me began shifting. It commenced with minor, seemingly harmless actions. He started requesting my presence in his office for pointless meetings that appeared to lack genuine objectives. He began sending messages beyond office hours, posing inquiries unrelated to professional matters. His praise regarding my work performance began feeling overly intimate, not concerning my abilities, but about my person. Then arrived the evening that transformed everything. During a corporate social gathering, Richard created a pretext to isolate me while others were occupied elsewhere. He positioned himself closer than appropriate, and before I could respond, I sensed his palm touch my lower spine. I became immobilized. He moved nearer and murmured, "Sophia, we must have a significant discussion about your prospects here." An icy tremor traveled down my back. His tone was composed, deliberate, and laden with suggestion. I managed a courteous expression, stepped away, and dismissed it with laughter. I hoped to convince myself that I had misinterpreted the situation, that perhaps I was reading too much into it. However, his gaze conveyed otherwise. The following dawn, I reached the workplace feeling disturbed. Was I being overly suspicious? Was I creating problems where none existed? Then, shortly before morning hours, a notification appeared in my email. Subject: Conference with Richard. "Hello, Sophia. Richard wishes to discuss a significant matter concerning your position within the organization. Please visit his office at the designated time." My heart sank. I had participated in conferences with Richard previously, but this one seemed different. Instinctively, I understood this wasn't merely a routine meeting. This was an examination, and I was uncertain how far my supervisor was prepared to proceed. I inhaled deeply before entering Richard's office. I was unprepared for what awaited, but I was certain of one thing: this would not be an ordinary conference. Richard occupied his position behind an enormous glass workstation, drinking from a costly-appearing coffee vessel. His gaze shifted to me, and a gradual smile emerged on his face. "Sophia, enter and shut the door." I paused momentarily before complying. The sound of the door closing behind me sent a chill down my spine. He indicated the chair opposite him. I seated myself, positioning my hands securely on my lap to prevent them from trembling. Richard leaned closer, pressing his fingertips together. "Well," he started, "I'm certain you've observed the recent advancement announcements." I acknowledged while maintaining a neutral demeanor. "It's regrettable, truly. You've performed outstanding work. I personally believe you merit inclusion on that roster." I swallowed with difficulty but remained quiet. Richard's focus never wavered from mine as he proceeded. "The matter is, Sophia, advancing in an organization like this requires more than simply diligent effort." I felt my stomach churn. "Connections are important," he stated, his voice lowering somewhat, "particularly the appropriate ones." I remained motionless, didn't blink. My pulse thundered in my ears. "Sophia, I wish to assist you. I recognize genuine capability in you. You're intelligent, driven, and you're unlike the others." The manner in which he emphasized the others made my skin crawl. "You possess the capacity to advance considerably, but you require someone supporting you, someone who can ensure you don't get ignored." He allowed the words to linger in the atmosphere, observing me intently. I compelled my voice to remain composed. And what precisely would that entail? Richard reclined in his chair, exhaling as though this was the most ordinary discussion imaginable. "Sophia, let's not act naive. You understand how operations function." He paused, offering me a knowing expression before continuing. "Many women have faced your situation previously. Some comprehended how to navigate the system, and currently they occupy executive positions." I tightened my fists beneath the desk. "I could assist you. We could establish something mutually advantageous." There it was. The fragile facade of professionalism had vanished. This was a proposal, a transaction. My stomach churned, but I forced myself to remain calm. "So let me understand this correctly," I said, inclining my head slightly. "You're proposing to advance me if I make an effort to develop a closer relationship with you?" Richard chuckled, shaking his head. No, you make it sound so transactional," he smirked. "I simply believe we should become better acquainted, beyond the workplace." I felt nausea rising in my throat. "I see." He smiled more broadly, as if he believed I was contemplating it. "There's no urgency, naturally. Take your time. Consider it." He rose, indicating the meeting had concluded. "But don't delay too long. Opportunities such as this don't appear frequently." I stood from my chair, maintaining my neutral expression as I nodded and turned toward the exit. "Oh, and Sophia." I froze, my hand suspended over the door handle. "You're an intelligent woman. I dislike seeing you remain in the same position indefinitely." A veiled threat, unmistakably clear. I pushed the door open and exited, my legs feeling like metal. As soon as I returned to my workstation, I released an unsteady breath. My hands were shaking. I had labored diligently for years. I had established a reputation as one of the most capable marketing professionals in the organization. Now I was being presented with a revolting ultimatum: cooperate or be abandoned. But I wasn't alone in this situation. I reflected on Richard's words. Many women have faced your situation previously. Had he done this before? How many careers had he sabotaged? How many women had surrendered just to survive? I required answers. That evening, I began making telephone calls. I needed to discover the truth. I contacted a former colleague, Sarah, a woman who had mysteriously departed the company a year ago, despite being among the top performers. She answered after the third ring. "Sophia, wow, I wasn't anticipating hearing from you. What's happening?" "Sarah, I need to inquire about something regarding Richard." There was silence on the other end of the line. Then finally she spoke. "He made you an offer, didn't he?" A chill ran down my spine. "It happened to you as well, didn't it?" I asked, my voice barely audible. "Not only me," she said bitterly. "There were others." I gripped my phone tighter. What occurred? Sarah exhaled. I refused him, and suddenly I began being excluded from meetings. My projects were reassigned, and my workload increased twofold. Several months later, I was terminated for performance issues. My stomach twisted. Sarah's voice was sharp when she continued. "Listen to me, Sophia. If he's targeting you, you must be cautious. Richard doesn't appreciate hearing refusal." I took a deep breath, my mind racing. This was larger than just me. Richard was a predator, and he had been escaping consequences for years. Not anymore. I wasn't going to allow this to happen to me. I wasn't going to permit this to happen to anyone else. It was time to fight back. I barely slept that night. My mind kept replaying my conversation with Sarah, each word sinking deeper into my consciousness. If he's targeting you, you must be cautious. Richard doesn't appreciate hearing refusal. I knew Sarah wasn't exaggerating. Richard was powerful. He controlled promotions, projects, and ultimately people's careers. If I rejected him outright, what would happen to me? Would I be excluded like Sarah? Would I suddenly become a problematic employee? I had to be strategic about this. I needed a plan. The next morning, I arrived at work determined to behave as if nothing had occurred. But Richard was already making his move. My largest project, one I had worked on for months, was reassigned without explanation. My workload mysteriously doubled, filled with menial tasks that had nothing to do with my role. Emails I sent to clients were suddenly being lost, and my requests for approvals were ignored. At first, I tried to convince myself that it was just paranoia, but then I saw the email. Subject: Reassignment of responsibilities. Hi, Sophia. Due to restructuring, we have decided to shift the leadership of your current campaign to another team. You will be assisting with administrative support instead. Let us know if you have any concerns. Regards, HR. Administrative support. My heart pounded as I read those words repeatedly. Richard wasn't wasting time. He was making good on his silent threat. Later that day, as I sat at my desk staring blankly at my overflowing inbox, a new message appeared. Richard, I hope you're doing okay, Sophia. I know these changes can be frustrating. If you'd like to talk about it, my door is always open. My stomach twisted. He was toying with me. He wanted me to feel helpless, to feel like my only option was to return to him and accept his assistance. I clenched my fists. That was never going to happen. I had already recorded our conversation in his office, but that wasn't enough. I needed undeniable proof that he was systematically targeting me. So I started tracking everything. I took screenshots of my reassigned projects. I documented every instance of work being mysteriously lost. I saved all my emails and forwarded important ones to my personal account. I even confided in a few trusted colleagues. It's weird, one of them admitted. You used to be copied on all the marketing decisions. Now it's like you don't even exist. Exactly. Richard wasn't just punishing me, he was erasing me. That afternoon, I was sitting in the break room staring at my coffee when someone sat down across from me. I looked up and saw Lisa, the head of HR. Hey, she said carefully, can I talk to you for a second? I straightened, feeling my pulse quicken. Of course. Lisa hesitated before speaking. I've noticed some concerning things happening with your workload recently. I didn't say anything, but I could feel my grip tightening on my coffee cup. And I also noticed, she continued, that Richard has been spending a lot of time around your desk lately. I inhaled sharply. Sophia, I know what's going on. For the first time in days, hope flickered inside me. You're not the first. My breath caught. So it's true? I whispered. Lisa nodded grimly. I can't say much yet, but if you have any documentation, any proof, I suggest you keep collecting it. I wanted to tell her right then and there that I had recordings, emails, a full case ready to go, but I wasn't sure who I could fully trust yet. Thanks, Lisa, I said instead. I appreciate it. She studied me for a moment, then nodded. Just be careful. Richard's not stupid. If he thinks you're turning against him, he'll make sure you don't have a career left to fight for. Rewritten Script, Part 2 of 3. By the conclusion of the week, circumstances had deteriorated further. My access to essential company documents had been revoked. My login credentials for internal databases mysteriously ceased functioning. I was eliminated from every significant project I had contributed to. Then the final strike arrived. I was summoned to HR for a performance evaluation. I entered with my stomach knotted in anxiety. Richard was already present, seated across from Lisa and another HR executive. His expression was casual, amicable, almost entertained. Sophia, we simply wanted to address some concerns regarding your recent performance. Performance? I had scarcely been permitted to execute my duties. Lisa avoided my gaze, her expression tense. I recognized what this was. Richard was establishing the groundwork. He was going to construct a case against me, fabricate justifications to terminate me, exactly as he had done to Sarah. As I sat there listening to Richard weave his network of deceptions, something within me erupted. I had spent years developing my career. I had labored too intensively to allow someone like him to steal it from me. I was finished playing defensively. I forced a smile and leaned forward. "Thank you for your feedback, Richard," I said sweetly. "Actually, I've been intending to schedule a meeting with you." His smirk wavered. "Oh?" I nodded. "Yes, I believe it's time we had a very serious conversation." For the first time, I observed something flicker in his eyes, uncertainty. Because what he didn't realize was that I had a strategy, and this time I was the one setting the snare. I exited the HR meeting with my head raised high, but my mind was racing. Richard had made his move. Now it was my turn. I knew precisely what he was doing, pushing me toward a forced resignation. He wanted me gone before I could create trouble. But I had no intention of departing quietly. That evening, I finalized my plan. Secure more evidence. I had recordings of Richard's advances, but I needed proof of his retaliation. I established a fake email account and forwarded myself every suspicious work email. I maintained logs of missing files, reassigned projects, and HR complaints. Make him feel secure. If Richard suspected I was fighting back, he would tighten control and make my life even worse. So I had to make him believe I was breaking down. I acted defeated, avoiding eye contact, staying quiet in meetings, letting him think I was crumbling. And then I sent him a message. Me. "I think I was too emotional before. Can we talk?" Richard responded immediately. "Richard, of course, Sophia. I knew you'd come around. Let's meet after work. My place." My stomach turned. He wasn't even trying to hide it anymore. But I played along. Me. "I'd prefer somewhere neutral. A hotel bar?" A pause. "Smart girl. 7 p.m. Grand Royal Hotel. See you then." At 7 p.m. sharp, I walked into the Grand Royal Hotel bar dressed in soft, neutral tones. Nothing flashy, nothing attention-grabbing. I needed to appear hesitant, vulnerable. Richard was already there, a glass of whiskey in hand. He smiled as I approached. "Sophia," he said smoothly, "I knew you'd make the right decision." I forced a small smile sitting across from him. "I just don't want any more problems, Richard." He leaned in, lowering his voice. "You won't have problems if you trust me." I nodded, pretending to waver. I need to know I'm safe, that I won't regret this." Richard's smile widened. He thought he had won. "You'll be safe with me." He reached for my hand, and that's when I made my move. As soon as his fingers brushed mine, my phone vibrated. I pulled back, grabbing it quickly. Me. "Oh, I think I forgot to turn off my recording app. Weird, it's been running this whole time." Richard's smirk vanished. "What?" I tilted my phone just enough for him to see the red recording symbol. "Oops." His face drained of color. "Sophia, delete that right now." I stood up, slipping my phone into my pocket. "We'll talk later, Richard. I just wanted to make sure I got everything clear." Then I walked out, leaving him frozen in place, because for the first time, he was the one who felt trapped. I exited the hotel bar with my heart pounding, but my steps steady. I had just reversed the situation, and Richard had no idea how badly he had miscalculated. He thought I was an easy target. He thought I was frightened, but now he was the one who had something to lose. The next morning, I put the final phase of my plan into motion. I wasn't just going to expose Richard. I was going to make sure there was no way he could escape. Here's what I did. I sent an anonymous tip to HR using a burner email. I forwarded them the recorded conversations and screenshots of his messages. I made it clear that if they didn't act, the recordings would be leaked elsewhere. I contacted Lisa from HR directly. I trusted her enough to know she wouldn't cover for him. I told her everything, and then I played the hotel bar recording. Lisa's face went pale. Sophia, this is enough to bury him. I nodded. Then let's do it. I looped in my allies. Over the past week, I had quietly gathered other women Richard had harassed. Some were too afraid to come forward, but others were ready. We coordinated, making sure we all filed complaints at the same time. I planned a grand finale. Richard loved attention, so I was going to make sure he had an audience for his downfall. That Friday, the company held its quarterly all-hands meeting where executives gave updates and announced major promotions. Richard, of course, was one of the speakers. He stood on stage, smiling like he owned the place. Here at Nextech, we believe in integrity, leadership, and above all, respect in the workplace. I almost laughed. Not for long, Richard. I stood up. Excuse me, I said loudly. I have something important to share. The room went silent. Every executive turned toward me, confused. Richard, I think it's time everyone hears the truth about what respect in the workplace really means to you. Richard's smile faltered. I pulled out my phone, connected it to the conference room speakers, and hit play. If you want to move up, Sophia, you need to be willing to play the game. Many women before you have taken this opportunity and now they're thriving. Don't be stupid, Sophia. I can make you or I can break you. The entire room froze. Gasps, shocked whispers, and then chaos. Richard lunged forward, trying to shut off the recording. This is taken out of context, he shouted. She's lying! But before he could reach me, Lisa stood up. HR has already received multiple complaints against you, Richard. We have undeniable proof of harassment and retaliation. Richard's face turned ghostly white. Effective immediately. You are placed on unpaid suspension, pending an internal investigation. Security will escort you out. Richard started to argue, but then a security guard grabbed his arm. As Richard was dragged out, the room erupted into noise. People whispered, some cheered, and then one of my coworkers stood up and clapped. Then another and another, until the entire room was applauding. I stood there, taking it all in. I had done it. Richard was finished. I stood in the conference room, heart pounding, as Richard was dragged out by security. It was over. For weeks I had endured his games, his power plays, his veiled threats. But now he was the one powerless. The moment the doors closed behind him, the room exploded into whispers. Did that really just happen? I knew he was creepy, but this... Wow. She took him down in front of everyone. I didn't care what they were saying. I just let myself breathe for the first time in weeks. I wasn't afraid anymore. As soon as the meeting ended, Lisa from HR pulled me aside. Sophia, this is huge. You just took down one of the highest-ranking executives in the company. I nodded, my pulse still racing. What happens now? I asked. Lisa sighed. Officially, Richard is suspended pending investigation, but let's be real, he's done. The board won't protect him after this. Good, that's exactly what I wanted. By the end of the day, Richard's name was already scrubbed from the company website. An email went out to the entire company. Effective immediately, Richard Green has been placed on indefinite leave. Nextech Solutions does not tolerate workplace misconduct. I could only imagine his reaction when he read that. Monday morning felt different. People who once avoided eye contact with me now smiled and nodded in respect. A few coworkers even stopped by my desk to say, "Thank you for doing what we were all too scared to do." HR sent out an anonymous employee survey encouraging people to report past harassment. The power in the office had shifted, and for the first time, it felt like a place I actually wanted to work. Of course, Richard didn't go down without a fight. The day after his suspension, I got an angry text from an unknown number. Unknown. You think you've won? You have no idea who you're messing with. I smirked. Oh, but I did, and I had one last card to play. That night, I forwarded Richard's messages and recorded conversations to a journalist. By morning, an article was trending. Top tech executive caught in workplace harassment scandal. It included direct quotes from my recordings, statements from other women who came forward after I exposed him, testimonies about how he ruined careers for years. Richard's fate was sealed. By the end of the week, Richard was officially fired. His name was all over LinkedIn, Twitter, and tech blogs. His wife filed for divorce. He deleted all his social media accounts. And me? I was finally free. Richard was gone. Fired, disgraced, completely erased from the company he once controlled. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I could finally breathe. But the real shock came 3 days later. I was sitting at my desk when an email popped up from an unknown sender. Subject: "You should see this. Hi, Sophia. You don't know me, but I used to work under Richard. I heard what you did, and I thought you might want to know. He's trying to get back into the industry. Check the attached file." My stomach tightened. I opened the attachment. It was a screenshot of Richard's job application. He was trying to secure a senior position at another tech firm. He was already trying to rebuild his power. I could have ignored it. I had already won. He had lost his job, his reputation, even his marriage. But something inside me said, not yet. So I forwarded the email to the CEO of that company. Subject: a warning about Richard Green. Hi, I recently became aware that Richard Green applied for a role at your company. I strongly encourage you to listen to these recordings and review the attached media coverage before considering his employment. Regards, Sophia. It took less than an hour for a reply to hit my inbox. Thank you for sharing this. We will not be moving forward with his application. Richard was officially blacklisted from the industry. A week later, I was called into a meeting with the executive team. Sophia, the CEO said, we've been reviewing everything, and we believe it's time to recognize your contributions properly. I held my breath. We'd like to offer you the position of senior marketing manager. A promotion. The one Richard tried to steal from me. Only this time, I didn't have to sell my soul for it. I smiled. I accept. That night, I got one last text. Unknown, you ruined my life. I hope it was worth it. I stared at it for a second before typing back. Me. No, Richard. You ruined your own life. I just turned on the light so everyone could see it. Then I blocked the number. And that was the end of Richard Green. Reflecting on everything, I realized that Richard never anticipated defeat. He assumed I would remain silent, that I would choose the path of least resistance, that I would be just another woman too frightened to resist. But he was mistaken. Standing up to him wasn't simple. There were instances when I questioned myself, moments when I wondered if the struggle was worthwhile. But then I remembered. I had worked too relentlessly to allow someone like him to determine my destiny. If there's one lesson I've taken from this entire experience, it's that silence is what maintains people like Richard in positions of authority. He flourished on fear, on the concept that no one would dare confront him. But fear only functions when we remain isolated. The instant I voiced my concerns, others joined me. The moment we united, he lost everything. And I didn't merely secure the promotion, I reclaimed my self-respect. So to anyone experiencing powerlessness, don't allow them to persuade you that your voice lacks significance. It matters. And when employed wisely, it can topple even the most seemingly untouchable individuals.